So I took down videos on Facebook and on YouTube because I was off about May 4th being 28 days after the total solar eclipse. And just one little mistake, and it aggravates me. And, I feel like I have to do a redo. But I want to look back again at this total solar eclipse as a potential time frame for the fake stage deadly wound event. Now, 311 is 28 days to the total solar eclipse. We know all about March 11th, which was when the you-know-what was declared worldwide, the illness to be, you know, the biggest of deals. And it's 28 days from the total solar eclipse that makes the X across America. And hang on a second. All right. So Harvey Dent is at 250 52nd Street. And she's at, but they switched it. But notice it says Avenue X, and this total eclipse is an X across America. You with me? I don't know what's playing. I don't know how many. Hang on a second. So anyway, I digress. But it says, oh, and she's on Avenue X. Now that's going to stand for the X across America total solar eclipse, in my opinion, because what takes place then are big explosions. I've been watching The Dark Knight, just going back and looking for clues. We're going back to James Bond, going back to The Dark Knight. I was going to do it while I was on vacation. Obviously, I didn't get very far. Only got Skyfall and half of The Dark Knight, or 2/3 of it. The total solar eclipse. Let's get back to Donnie Darko. So there's a 28-day interval in this movie, and it's going to tell you 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds. That's the day the world will end. And 28 plus 6 plus 42 plus 12 is 88, which equals Trump in simple gematria. 88 miles per hour, out of time, license tag, all that kind of stuff. All right. And that's what Donnie's arm looks like. You see the 28, then a dot, and then the 06, and then a dot. I just saw that 2806 and something. I can't remember what in the world that was. But boy, I would sure like to know, because that 06 is there for a reason. And I just saw that and stuff I was looking into. Anyway. By the way, this clip is called Donnie Darko Sleep Golfing, because he's going to wake up on a golf course. And we know who likes to play golf. Donnie. Who's going to get the darkened right eye? Donnie Darko. The Dark Knight. And then The Dark Knight Rises came out 2 days later, rose on the third day. Yes, they were 4 years apart, both on leap years. And here we are in our leap year. Okay. So Donnie dies. There's two different Donnie scenarios in the movie that play out. A jet engine crashes, but Donnie escapes it because he went sleepwalking because of Frank the Rabbit talking to him. And he wakes up on a golf course. And that is where we're going to get the. Now that's Maggie Gyllenhaal leaning against the door. She is the only person in Donnie Darko and The Dark Knight. And so the jet just hit. Maggie had just gotten home from a date. She's leaning against the door. You can't really see her. It's really dark, but that's Maggie Gyllenhaal, who was in The Dark Knight. Uh, and then she's freaking out and she leans up against the door. She starts to sink down after the jet engine crashes into Donnie's room. And then the movie goes back after Donnie shoots Frank in the right eye, who is speaking to him throughout the whole movie while he's alive. Then Donnie goes back and actually dies himself in the bedroom by the jet engine. The Jets took down the New York Jets. The Jets took down the Twin Trumps. The jet took down Donnie Darko. So that might stand for the total solar eclipse, that chandelier. But Donnie wakes up on a golf course, and so everything's dark. And all of a sudden, the sun comes out, and he's going to say, "Sun, sun, let me turn it up where you can hear it." That's why you couldn't hear anything else, huh? Like the jet crashing or whatever. Yeah, she just finished her date. She kind of smirked. And there's the jet engine crashing. And that's when she sinks down. And there, I think, might be a sign for the total solar eclipse. But the big sign for the total solar eclipse is then Donnie waking up on the golf course.
Sun?
Sun. And what sun are you looking at? You're looking at the sun, not S-O-N, even though the man is trying to wake Donnie up, calling him son. And Patrick Swayze, who did Point Break, which is all about the breaking point, and it featured presidents robbing banks.
Sun? Donnie Darko?
And Donnie's got the marker in his right hand, the Sharpie, where he wrote what Frank had told him about 28, 6, 42, 12.
Donnie Darko? What the heck's going on here?
And there's your eclipse. So the breaking point, point break, the breaking point is the total solar eclipse. I think that's when the Trump event will take place. It'll be fake, it'll be staged, because it just happened after midnight. So it was on that day because the clock had struck after midnight. I don't know if we can go back and look at the clock. I think we just missed it. But in the movie, you want to watch Donnie Darko director's cut. It's it's not a feel good movie. It's a very weird, strange movie, but it's really telling you about. I actually had it in my DVD player and stopped watching it. I didn't like it. And this is in 2017, and I came across some videos on YouTube, and I realized who our Antichrist was based off this predictive programming. One of them was an AI site called Angel White, and there was another one, that Donald Trump, the Antichrist Part 1 video that I did that's got thousands of views. I used both those videos. And when I watched those videos on YouTube, I looked at my DVD player and I said, that movie's about Trump. And that was 2017, and that's when it all like began. And I digress. I'm sorry.
What the heck's going on here? Who is it, Don? It's Eddie Darko's kid now.
So, and then Donnie's going to wake up as Swayze's got that sun blocked out. So he's representing the eclipse. And Donnie's told in 28 days, 6 hours, 40. He was already told that by Frank. I'm sorry. That's the day the world will end. And we might as well go ahead and look at that clip. Okay. Now, let's just say he was to go down on April 6th, and his rising day on the third day would be on the total solar eclipse. Then your 28 days later is May 4th. Because God, it's so hard to put together. Because I Pet Goat, the dynamite, the nuclear explosion, the big nuclear blast, which I guess I need to bring up. The original on Heliofont was 727. They took it down. So you have to take 2 seconds off of the 729 from some more previews YouTube site. But the original one on Heliofont, Helio means sun. Again, got a total solar eclipse. That makes an X across America from the other one that was on August 21st, I believe it was, 2017. And at the exact midpoint in between, that's 2,422 days. And the exact midpoint was 1,211 days. And there was a total solar eclipse on that day. And that was the first day the Pokey Poke was administered and Biden was given the victory by the electoral votes. That was all on December 14th, which is the exact midpoint. There was a total solar eclipse on the exact midpoint in between the two total solar eclipses that make the X across America. If you don't think that this isn't what the Lord has completely planned out, 1,000%. And Mystery Babylon just follows through with it. But there's that nuclear explosion. And you see where it says 504. Well, they took theirs down because whoops, sorry, let's turn down the volume, because that would be taking place. And you see the heart. I mean, when we get around Valentine's Day, we always get excited also. There's so many different ways to look at this. But Donnie Darko's the key. And we've all heard about those movies, 28 Days, 28 Days Later, and all that kind of stuff. So 28 days after the total. So what if he goes down on the 6th and rises on the 8th with that spirit of Antichrist? No, but that's not the abomination of desolation when he appears to have risen from the dead that the whole earth would see. I think that would be the Ring of Fire eclipse on the Donnie Darko date, because Donnie Darko, the opening movie shows you October 2nd. That's what it flashed up on. That's when the movie began. That's actually the date when the jet hit Donnie, was October 2nd, 1988. October 2nd, 1988, Donnie Darko. So it says on October 2nd, 1988, troubled teenager. So we have a Ring of Fire eclipse, an annular eclipse on October 2nd this year. And I think that's when the abomination of desolation would be. So does he rise on this total solar eclipse on April 8th? And then they kill 1 out of 4 people on this earth through the 4 horses, the war, the famine, the death. The technology will have a lot to do with it. Those that got poked, potentially. It will affect them because there was nanotechnology in that. And nanotechnology connects to those apparatuses that are all over every street corner, every city, that make your cell phones work. And so anyway, that's when Donnie That's when the jet engine killed Donnie when you go back to the end of the movie. But 28 days later, on Donnie's arm, that's when he shoots Frank in his right eye. And here's Frank in the movie theater, Frank the Rabbit, with his right eye wound. So there's two-way goes going. Just like there's two different scenarios with Donnie, this guy's a mirror image of Donnie, just like Blofeld with his right eye wound when he's looking through the looking glass at James Bond. They're actually mirror images of each other. That's how their world works. And when you're looking at the Joker with his right eye all smudged in dark black, it's utterly darkened per the Bible verse, and he's staring off at Batman in the interrogation room, and the Joker says, "You complete me." Um, I don't know if that's when he says "you complete me," but at one point he does say "you complete me," uh, because in the movie they're actually one and the same. The Antichrist is the Joker. The Antichrist is Batman. So there's always two-way goes going with their movies. It's extremely jacked up, complicated. But there's the right eye wound. Now Donnie's the one that shoots him in the right eye. 28 days after October 2nd, on October 30th. He shoots him here. There he is with his little rabbit suit. He took the head off, and Donnie's got the gun. Now Donnie is dressed as a skeleton, so he's dead. And we remember how James Bond at the opening of Spectre James Bond opening of Spectre, Day of the Dead. James Bond is also dressed as a skeleton, so he's dead. Now, when did Donnie die? He died on October 2nd by the jet engine. But there's two different Donnies in this movie, just like the Twin Trumps, the Twin Towers. One had a horn on top, and the horn is back on top. And of course, the horn is what the Antichrist was called in the book of Daniel, chapter 7. Jesus said the Antichrist would be here in his own name, and a trump is a horn, and a horn is a trump. So it's not rocket science, but it's very layered, it's very detailed. So there's Bond anyway with he's a skeleton. Donnie's a skeleton. Donnie shoots Frank.
Go!
I guess he just shot him. Okay. So that was Frank's friend. That was all freaked out, but that's Frank who gets shot in the right eye at the very end of the movie. But throughout the movie, Frank's haunting Donnie and telling him 28 days after the October 2nd. And what Donnie ends up doing is shooting Frank. So where in the right eye, per the Zechariah 11:17 Bible verse, that the Antichrist is has his right eye utterly darkened. So you see how all layered. It's The Dark Knight, it's 007, and it's Donnie Darko. Those are the three big movies, and of course, Back to the Future is, and Back to the Future 2. They're just loaded with all this stuff, and it's all about portals. Donnie Darko talks about portals. There was a gigantic portal on top of the Superdome. There was the Dr. Pepper transfer portal commercial, and last night's Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl games. And the transfer portal in the Dr. Pepper commercial was the exact same looking replica that was on top of the Superdome. Let me see if I can find them for you. By the way, you can see where YouTube removed your content. YouTube removed your content. And down here, YouTube removed your content. 3 different videos. 11:29, 12:21, 12:25. They never told me which channel it was on, nothing. And so anyway, I got the email coming of the portals. So hang on. So you see that portal there in the Dr. Pepper commercial? I had a portal on top of the Superdome last night too. And the portal was also spoken of in Donnie Darko about portals. And the portal is like the gateway arch and the archways that you see, the Arch of Triumph. Again, Trump comes from the word triumph. That's the gateway when he's going through his transformation and being um, basically possessed by Satan, but he's going to Revelation 11:7, the beast rises. It's a spiritual rising. The dark night rises. The darkened right eye, which is what the dark night was about, is now the dark night rises again on the third day. Like Jesus rose on the third day, the dark night was released 2 days later or on the third day after the dark night. It was Porsche 911, Porsche 718. Dark Knight came out on 718. The Dark Knight Rises came out on 720. Both leap years, 2008 to 2012, and we're in a leap year now. See that portal? So they're hinting everywhere they can hint. They're putting everything out there. The total solar eclipse is the key for me. I in the 28 days, now 28 days after the total solar is May 6th. It's actually the day my mom passed away. I was looking big at the Kentucky Derby and if he was to go down because of the movie View to a Kill, it was all about horse racing. All about horse racing. And the Devil's Advocate they got him out of they recruited him out of Gainesville, the Keanu Reeves character who's the Devil's Advocate. The Devil's Advocate is the Antichrist. That's why the University of Florida, again, UF, that's 21 and a 6, 216 is James Bond's card tag because 6 times 6 times 6 is 216, and that's UF. Remember, Alabama represents Ghost in the Machine University. Their big fraternity is called the Machine. And so that basically represents Satan. And we've shown you many times that a Gator assistant referred to Nick Saban as the devil himself, and James Franklin called him Nicky Satan. So that's who Saban, that's who Alabama reps is the ghost in the machine or Satan in the technology. And I Pet Goat shows him being programmed by the technology. He's connected to that wire because that's the mark of the beast. It's the iron mixing with clay. The iron is the technology. It's the machinery. It's the technology. So he's programming. See, there's 3 different characters in I Pet Goat. And they show the Twin Towers falling down. And right about there's the American flag being ripped, and there's your whatever that movie was that just finished playing on Netflix. Leave the World Behind. The Dark Knight Rises also showed the American flags ripped when Bane was driving through the streets. There was snow falling also then. But they'll show these towers drop. So that's what that was all about. And of course, there's the right eye wound. So there's 3 different characters here that represent the Antichrist. One on being programmed by the technology. And that's how everybody will become possessed, because that's what the mark is. It's a total human body possession. In Daniel 2, 41 through 43, it's the iron mixing with clay. Clay represents humans. The iron is the technology, and it says they shall mingle themselves with the seed of man. That's what they showed you in The Exorcist in the movie Venom is total human body. I don't know. Somebody told me Invasion of the Body Snatchers was like that's what that was about. Was so anyway, and the man in the boat, which we showed you how James Bond replicated this by standing in the boat and going through the mouth of the dragon in Skyfall, and it's about to be Year of the Dragon very soon. So anyway, what am I trying to say about this total solar eclipse? Would it be April 6th, rise on April 8th? 28 days after April 6th is May 4th, which they coded that numerous times. They had the 54 up there. When they cut to the explosives, the clock was 4:54 on the timer. And when the first explosion went off on the 4K disc, there was a 54 in the timer of the movie, which is 28 days after he goes down, not 28 days after he rises. That would be May 6th. And remember, 28 days before the total lunar eclipse is March 11th. This event could happen any day. We've been saying that for the last 2 years. But we're really getting to the nitty gritty now that we're in a leap year. And I've shown y'all many times that the street that I lived on was nothing but years. To live at 2015 Brentwood Drive, and of course that's a year, isn't it? 2015. The whole neighborhood is years, and it starts to go on an incline at 2005, 2006, 2007-ish. Right around there, you start to see an incline. You have to put your eye down on the road to see it. And it literally starts to go downhill right in here right at the end of 2019, but right in the middle of 2020. And we all know that 2020 was when things started going downhill. And there is no 2025. The last one is 2024, and then it turns into Kinsman Drive, and those start with 11s. 2024 was the final. I don't know if the Lord's coded all that for me. Now there is no 2023 on here. It goes 2020, 2021, 2022, and then 2024. Interesting that they show 2 items on the 2022 as if that would be your 2023. It's kind of strange, isn't it? See the extra box? But, and we all know Brentwood, how famous that is. I'm sure the AI hasn't been trolling me. We all know OJ's thing was a very fake and staged event. It's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Quentin Tarantino did a movie about it, which was proving that because Sharon Tate didn't die in that movie. Spoiler alert. Because in real life, she never died. That was a very fake, staged event. The Tate LaBianca murders, the OJ murders, that was all fake. It's Hollywood. Of course, they both happened in Hollywood. The AI has been writing the script, and Mystery Babylon just carries it out. Anyway, I would look really big when we get close to that total solar. I mean, again, 2 days before a full moon is always big because I Pet Goat shows him rising up with the right eye wound up through a full moon. There's the eggheads now programmed. So the Antichrist is now, see the blue eyes. We know who has blue eyes. Mr. Big has blue eyes. There's the snow falling, and February's full moon is called a snow full moon. So I always get excited, and you see him rising up out of the abyss, just like Bruce Wayne rose up out of a literal hole in the ground prison. He climbed up out of a pit. The Dark Knight Rises. Per Revelation 11:7, the beast rising out of the pit, and he's coming up out of a pit. It's at the North Pole. That's why there's snow. That's why it's ice. Santa, Satan, Satan, Santa. Frozen, Disney, Mr. Freeze, Jesus spoke in parables. So the Riddler, all the villains of Batman are characteristics of God or sheep. Jesus spoke in parables. So that's what the Riddler is about. Mr. Freeze, because the abyss, or when he rises from the pit, that spiritual pit or the abyss is at the North Pole, or what we call the North Pole. It's the center of the circle of the earth. You're surrounded by Antarctica. That's why you don't fall off. And this has all been proven by the way jets fly, and so forth. But anyway, they showed you the ice wall and Game of Thrones opening and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he's got the right eye wound, and he comes up through a full moon. The Dark Knight Rises on the third day, so we always look 2 days before a full moon. And Donnie Darko had a song in it called The Killing Moon. Donnie Darko, The Killing Moon. So The Killing Moon was featured in 2001 Donnie Darko. So everything that they do is complete. By the way, it was sung by Echo and the Bunnymen, or Echo and the Bunnymen. Bunnymen. And we're still in Year of the Rabbit, but I think we're connected to that because of I Pet Goat. She represents the total solar eclipse that was in 2023, which gave us the flower full moon. There is no other total solar eclipse that gives you a flower full moon. The total solar this April, because that was April 20th, and then the flower full moon was May 5th. This year's total solar, also in April, that full moon is like it's April 20 something. April 26th, I think. It doesn't come up in May, the May flower. And so there it is. So I think that's what ties it all into Year of the Rabbit, or Frank the Rabbit, because there's a rabbit right over her head. And she represents the total solar. And there's 12 blues here. They're all representing moons. Well, 2023 had 13 moons. There was a blue moon in August, and there they are connected. But there's only 12 of them because that apple represents the 13th moon at the flower full moon of May. See how crafty all this is? I've been doing this a long time. It's sort of rocket science. It's nerd rocket science. But I guess if you're new at this, we can close out with the Zechariah 11:17. And of course, they had their Heidi Bowl game on 11/17, 1968. And Heidi 2 was on the marquee of Groundhog Day, and there was no Heidi 2. What they were meaning is the next 11/17, because that game was played on 11/17, 1968. 1968, the assassination year. I think they're all faked and staged of RFK and Martin Luther King. They staged things to cause division and to create their heroes and so on and so. Woe to the idle shepherd. Jesus is the good shepherd, then the Antichrist is the idle shepherd. See, the Antichrist will appear to have risen from the dead, the deadly wound to the right eye, but it's a body double switch, a clone, a body double, whatever. Woe to the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm and upon his right eye. His arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. Well, who played in the 11/17 game? The Jets, which is what hit the Donnie Darko and Twin Trumps, and the Raiders, which have the right eye utterly darkened. They have the right eye patch. Cannot make this stuff up, can you? The AI is what does all this, folks. The computer's been around a very long time, way longer than they told you. People like whatever his name of Apple Computers, he was just a front man. They're all front men. They're all actors playing roles. Steve Jobs was a front man. That computers, that AI, everything's been around. What is it? The bite out of the apple was their logo. Come on. Garden of Eden. Everything's a middle finger to the God of the Bible. Mystery Babylon does not believe in the Bible or the God of the Bible. And they teach people that the Bible's not real. But of course, the joke is only the Holy Spirit can teach you that the Bible is real. There's no such thing as free will. Christmas is pagan. The churches today all teach free will, and they're all celebrating Christmas. And I've already seen all the marquees on all the churches talking about the new year. We don't celebrate New Year's. Sheep don't deal. That's all about the god Janus that sees backwards and forwards, and that's what they do at the end of a year. They look back and they look forward. Hey, let's look back at the biggest plays of 2023, or the top 10 ESPN sport, whatever. Everybody, they have their looking back and looking forward. It's all part of their rituals. The biggest Christmas tree is where? Rockefeller Center. It's the tree goddess. It's grove worship out of the Old Testament. Tell me the Bible's not real, and yet the whole world is nothing but the Bible. I believe that 99.999% of the church is lost. And they will all get the call of the abomination of desolation. And they'll come out of every single world religion equally. Far Eastern, Middle Eastern, and today's fake Christianity and pagan Rome equally. Same percentage will come out of Far Eastern religions, it'll be a spiritual awakening. The earth will be supernatural by the time you get to the abomination of desolation. Because the false prophet and the Antichrist, the false prophet performs miracles. The Word of God calls them lying signs and wonders. Jesus said it'll be a deception so great that if it were possible, his very elect would be fooled. The earth will be supernatural by the time you get to that abomination of desolation. In the whole goat world, sheep will become alive, but they'll be quickened. But all goats will believe that he came back from the dead. They will worship the image of the beast through an app on their phone or something. And they'll be entered. They'll be possessed. The fallen angels will use the human body as an avatar, and they'll kill sheep rapidly. It's not a feel-good story, except for the fact that if you're a sheep, the next life is great. But this life is not good for the sheep, and it's not going to be good for the goats either. This is God's story. He's declared the end from the beginning. It's his movie that we're all living in. God of the Old Testament is just the actor. playing the role that he ordained before the earth was even formed. He's declared the end from the beginning. And John 1 1 through 3 tells you, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and everything that was created by the Word. Nothing was created that was created except it was created by the Word, and the Word was before anything was, which all goes back to, I butchered all that, so let's just read it real quick. In the beginning was the Word, so in the beginning was the script. Genesis all the way through Revelation. Revelation is the end times. It's already written, and it hasn't happened yet. And it's completely married to Isaiah 46:10, which is the most important Bible verse. I was born at 10:46 a.m., and I'll tell you the most important Bible verse is Isaiah 46:10, where God said, declaring the end, Revelation, from the beginning, Genesis, from ancient times to the things that are not yet done. Revelation is not yet done. Genesis would be the ancient times, saying, my counsel shall stand, I will do my pleasure. This is God's story. In the beginning was the Word, which was Genesis through Revelation. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning. So the whole script was already written. So the God of the Bible that's chasing around the Israelites and admonishing them and all that, that's just God playing a role that he ordained. In other words, he came and played in a cameo appearance in his movie that he's the writer, director, producer of. He also starred in cameo appearances as Jesus in the flesh and the God of the Old Testament. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made. So now you can see how I really butchered that while ago. But you get the idea. How close are we? The last house on that street when I lived on Brentwood, 2024. And if you go to it, you put your cell phone on the ground, you put your eye on the ground, and you will see the hump. And it peaks at 2019 across the street from 2020. More right in the middle of 2020, and it starts to go downhill right in the middle of 2020. Very prophetic. You can go there and do it yourself. Locals. Heck, I'll go do it with you. I did a video on it a long time ago with a cell phone, put it on the ground. You know, when I was back in 2020 when we were all at home. I took a ride one day and did it. We were still allowed to drive around to go eat stuff, pick up food, whatever. And it was back when we were able to move around in the summer, I think is when I did it. But anyway, yeah, they spray our skies. I think that's what 2020 was about. Breathing it affected certain people genetically, predisposed to it. They knew a certain amount would be. Old George in Minnesota on May 25th. What was that hashtag? Can't breathe. What was the problem with the people? With the illness, they couldn't breathe. I can't breathe. Though things are real, all the world's a stage. World War I, staged. Was it real? Yeah. I don't think what's going on now is real. But I think World War II was real. I think Vietnam was real. I think World War I was real, but I think what's going on over there and then what's going on at the other place, I think a lot of that is staged. One area where one theater is, and they call them theaters, by the way, don't they? The generals refer to the battleground area as the theater. And all the world's a stage. World War III will be very real, but it will be very scripted. It will be completely planned out. Read Matthew 24 about the war and the pestilence. That's illness. They're going to crank those. They're going to crank that. They're going to crank it up. What makes your cell phone work? They're going to crank that up. Going to make people. It's what illness is. It's when your body's toxic. And your toxins come out through mucus. You're born with the ability that you're born with that. It's a detox. It's not cooties like they've told you. I told people in 2020 after learning that, I was like, cough in my face. I will not get sick. Anyway, love y'all.